Alright, well, next up, they are going to be turning the wind-up windows to electric, just because the wind-up ones just seem to keep binding and they break and they're just garbage. So I bought this kit here. Obviously the Mini only has 2 front doors, so it comes with the 2 actuators and the really dirt nasty switches, which I'll definitely be replacing out, and the wiring. So here it is. Okay, well, once again, we're working on a classic Mini. So, nothing quite fits. I had expected it to, and everything is gonna have to be modified. So, first off, we notice that here, the top, it's not gonna fit through here. I'm kind of hoping that I can cut into the door here, fit the motor. It may or may not go all the way down. I'm kind of thinking it won't, but if I can get it majority of the way down, I'm pretty happy with it. So let's see what it looks like once we've taken the old regulator out, the glass out, see how it fits. Oh well, even just as I'm doing the video, the window just binds up and it's coming down slightly offset, so it needs to be pulled down to even it out. It just sucks. So hopefully the electric one will just lift it up evenly, bring it down evenly. Yeah, so proof is why we're doing it. Alright, well, this is where I'm at. It slides down this gap here, and I'm going to have to cut out along here to fit the channel for the window. Obviously, I can't cut the top because it's got all these channels and everything to be able to slot it in. So, I'm hoping to be able to stick it up and then kind of slot it down into it. The motor's in there, but it's really tight. So what I'm going to do is, because there's a lip on here, obviously that's an indent in there. So what I'm thinking is I'm actually going to come back here and cut out below this kind of triangle kind of shape and try and keep it a little bit of rigidity. So keep that in there, and then yeah, then hopefully it'll come down a little bit further. So that's next up. Alright, so I've got the motor in there, I've got the gap coming up here. Obviously still got to chop that off. So I've got the 2 mounting bolts here. So what I'm thinking is I'm actually just going to utilize all the bolts and actually that the old wiper. So I'm going to cut out all the internals of it, and then drill these holes and bolt it to the big plate which comes all along here, because it'll be nice and rigid. I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do this bottom one yet. And then the motor is in there pretty tight down the bottom there, because obviously the lower I can get it, the lower I can put the window. So I might straighten it out just a little bit more, and then maybe, because there was a mounting bolt here, but I'm thinking that I might actually, because it is really tight and wedged in there, that I might just put some foam around it, and it can kind of just sit there free. But I won't know if that'll work until I've done everything else. Alright, well, next up I need to obviously trim the top off so it actually fits in the door properly. So I'm going to bring that down to about here, and then I've got my 2 points here which are going to mount onto the plate. So that's going to bolt up onto there, drill the holes, bolt those 2, and I've got another mounting point down here, but just like everything else on the Mini. I was hoping I wouldn't have to fabricate it, but looks like I'm going to have to do some welding on this as well. So I'm going to drill those 2 spots out. I'm going to bring that mounting point up here so it mounts onto the big plate as well, because that's nice and rigid, and it looks like the motor's pretty happy there. So that's not bolted in or anything, that's just wedged down kind of as far as I can push it. Alright, I've got it all fit in there really nice. So I've chopped it down. I've got it to about this level of the door here. Everything fits really good. So next up, I'm going to have to drill these holes in the plate. And what I'm going to do to get those correct positions is I'm going to get a ruler going between both of these lines and come past onto the door to mark it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a line on one of the doors and then measure to that first hole from that line, measure to the second hole, and then I'm going to put my plate over the top and then line up those 2 lines either side, measure from that line that I make to the first hole, put it on the plate, second hole, put it on the plate, and drill it, and hopefully that will all line up. Oh, well, there it is. I've lined up my 2 bolt holes there. The that mounting point there I'll probably move up and bolt it in somewhere here just to make it a little bit more rigid, but it seems to be all pretty tight. So next up, chuck in the window and see if it works. Alright, so I've got it all lined up and everything, but now I've got this big gap here. And I don't want to screw that in because I'm just going to put a lot of force in the middle of the window, and that's just going to put a lot of stress on the motor. Alright, so to get that plate sitting closer, what I'm going to have to do is cut down here and get rid of that little step there, and then that should make it a lot tighter. So it looks like I'm definitely fabricating to get this to fit. Alright, well, this is where I'm up to. I've now got a lot less pressure here. The everything's kind of like a bit loose and not really made that well. So when it comes down, it gets down to about here. And what I'm thinking is that this little notch here is pushing the motor and making a wedge and bowing the window. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and drop out this little piece here. Alright, so I've got that in, I've notched that out. Seems to be going alright. The battery might start to die out. That comes down, and now it's bottoming out because there's a little track which runs up and down here. So now I'm going to come right up. Feels like I'm going to have to come right up next to that bolt there, and then cut straight down just to give that space to move. So I'll probably have to do the same on this side, so I'll bring this cut out a bit further, maybe even just line it up with here, come across here, straight down. Nearly there. This is going to work. Alright, well, this is where we're at. On the way down, slows down a little bit at the bottom, but I'm okay with that. On the way back up again, what it's doing is that as soon as I've only got it supported up the top here, it's actually slightly twisting down the bottom. So I'm going to bring in the third bracket again. I'm going to put that in behind there. I'm going to weld that to the bottom there, and hopefully that's going to stop that it's coming kind of tweaking backwards, because if I hold the window back, it goes up fine, except for there's a rubber thing which is for the motor here, which keeps getting stuck in the window. But once I trim that down, it goes up. Sweet. So next up is putting my little bracket on the bottom here, then hopefully that's done. Alright, hopefully this is it. Nice. So close. It is quite nice. I wonder if I can tilt the window a little bit. Let's try that. Alright, well, there it is, it's all in. I needed a bit of cutting of the body of the door and a little bit of fabricating, but looks like it's down nice. On the way back up it's a little bit slower, but I'm pretty confident that once if the car's running, obviously, then it's going to be up to that about 14 volts. At the moment I've got it hooked up to the battery out of my car, and I've done this up and down quite a few times, so it's probably running a bit slower because the battery's starting to run out, but that's it. So the plan is that as soon as the door card's going to go on here, these bolts protrude out a little bit, so I'll have to get a different style of bolt to do those, and yeah.